were flying. Oh, you were flying oh so high. But then someday people look at you for what they call their own. They watch you suffer. Yeah, they hear you calling home. But then someday we could take our time to brush the leaves aside so you can reach us. But you left me far behind. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter. We are here in full force.
Jake, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What episode is this? 117?
Oh, I think 18. 118.
118. I've gotten 6 right?
Yeah.
It won't be 7 tonight. I'm just going to say that straight out.
Well, that's okay.
Was I expected to know this?
You'll probably know it when I say it.
I mean, I'll know the person singing or the band.
I think you'll know. This was their big hit, so.
Oh,
yeah.
Then I obviously don't know who they are.
Well,
go ahead and enlighten us.
This is Far Behind from Candlebox.
Candlebox.
They were a 90s band.
Is that one word or two?
One.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that alternative stuff?
Yeah.
Grungy stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
There is some of that stuff we've talked about it before. There is some of that stuff I do like. But most of it, I don't know what it is about alternative, but some of it I did like, most of it I didn't. I can't explain it.
I'll have to play this one off air for you. I think you'll remember.
I like. Would you consider Smashing Pumpkins?
Yes.
Soundgarden.
Yeah.
I like some of them, but
okay, good.
Barry Manilow.
Yeah, you nailed it. You're right in that same genre.
He's still alive.
Yeah. Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barry Manilow's still alive. He's still touring.
Really?
I believe he is, yeah. Huh.
Things I discover on this program.
Yeah. He had his hit Mandy. It was really, he just wanted to write man, I guess. But,
oh, God, that's bad.
I don't know. They wouldn't go for it at the record labels back then. It's a different day and age now.
Oh, wow. You're right about the latter, though. I mean, I was thinking of, the part in Crocodile Dundee where the man dressed up as a woman tries to pick up Paul Hogan, and what happens in that scene. Imagine that scene today. I mean, the what we used to call a drag queen, I don't know what you call it today.
It's the same thing.
Would probably be the hero of the movie now.
Right. And that's true. I mean, we have in St. Paul, and I don't know if it's made its way into Minneapolis, I assume,
I'm sure.
where at the public libraries you can have, your kids can have story time with a drag queen.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, you better sign up.
Female impersonator? Is that what we're supposed to call it now?
No, I think that they're still okay with that moniker.
That scene just cracks me up. Anyhow, I mean, it wouldn't be a show if an 80s movie didn't come up somehow. So
right.
Or an 80s TV show or whatever. Anyhow, I mean, Jay, let me just say something real quick.
Yes.
We do a lot of complaining on this show.
Well, there's a lot of complaining that needs to be done.
And I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
We started off by doing a lot of complaining in Crystal, my hometown, and our kind of our home base.
Right.
If I lived in Lakeland, Minnesota right now.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't even put into words what I'd be doing with what's going on over there. We're going to rip on it now, but I mean, we're going to do it anyway, even if we don't live there. But I mean, you want to talk about writing a book on how not to do something. It's kind of like, if you're gonna learn how to be a do-it-yourself electrician at home. And try to fix the fuse box because you're too cheap to pay somebody, which i.e. would be me.
Right.
Okay. Here's how to do it. Here's how not to do it. Okay. Here we have a great example of how not to do something. We talked about Lakeland not that long ago.
Yep.
And of course, their mayor, Richard Glasgow, Scotland. And we had a council member resign, renege, resign again. Mr. Glasgow, Mayor Glasgow, tried to ramrod an appointed person.
Wow. And for those of you that are still getting caught up, I know you didn't miss the episode. You're still working on getting caught up.
Oh, yeah.
Lakeland, if you don't know, is right on I-94 as you're passing into Hudson, Wisconsin.
That's right. And,
Right on the St.
any
Croix.
advice to you people in Lakeland, too? Get a job in Wisconsin. You'll make $1 less, but you'll take home $1 more. So get a job there. That's my advice to somebody in Lakeland.
Wow.
But Jay, not
Yes.
interesting things going on over there. That apparently a meeting got canceled. The Washington County Sheriff's Office is now involved in how bad do you have to be to get the sheriff's office involved in an appointed election?
Wow.
Appointment is not an election.
Yeah. It's not an election at all.
I don't know who this guy is. Doug Sand was supposedly to take the oath of office that night, and a group threatened legal action if he did, so they just canceled the meeting. I guess they'll do it at the next meeting.
I guess so, yeah. They'll wait till it dies down and then they'll do it.
They'll wait 6 months. I mean, if that's what has to happen. I mean, a vacancy, I don't know that there's a timed, I don't think Lakeland's a charter city. So
Yeah.
you'd have to look
I
at.
don't think so either.
Yeah, you'd have to look at state statutes to see how long a vacancy can last, or when an election has to happen, or if it does. But I'll tell you, pretty crazy. And the League of Minnesota Cities is acting as a mediator, Jay. You'll be glad to know that.
Good. It'll turn out just fine.
They'll take whatever side is best for the people. They'll take the opposite.
Yes.
That will be what the league does.
Yes.
They screw up a one-car parade. So, some angry people out there in Lakeland.
Yes. Well, I mean, shouldn't they be? I mean, we kind of, not that appointments, I guess, are unavoidable all of the time, but maybe they are. You know, we definitely are not fans of them here on this show. We lambasted. I don't know. We gave
One of
New
the
Hope
two.
a really hard time when they decided to wait for an opportune time to make their appointment.
No, it was Eric Lamley who withheld his resignation.
You think he did that on his own?
No, he did that on purpose. He consulted with
New
consulted
Hope.
with the council. He consulted with their city attorney. Eric Lamley's a crook. He's a total disgrace. The guy wouldn't know a new idea if it ran him over. And, it's just what they did at New Hope was disgusting.
Yeah. And same with, we covered the issue in Big Lake where
Champlin before that.
Yeah, Champlin before that. Big Lake, they decided that they were just going to appoint for the mayor vacancy from within the council and not take any applications, not consider anybody else. They were just going to appoint somebody from the council.
Right.
And then take the runner-up in the election and appoint that person in that vacancy.
And do you think the fix was in?
Oh,
I mean,
it was in
obviously
before the old mayor left to go be the county commissioner.
There's no way she would have made that move without having an idea of who was going to replace her.
Right.
And there's no way the appointed guy, whatever his name is, doesn't matter, would have made that move without somebody to replace him.
Right. Right. And then, you mentioned Champlin.
It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy.
Right. Where the mayor brings in two people in Champlin. One is his neighbor.
Yeah.
So you have like a minority stake of the power in Champlin in two houses that live right next to each other.
And let's not forget, how did he get on the council in the first place?
Appointed.
He was appointed himself.
Absolutely.
So they've had this string of appointed people, and 3 of the 5 people on their council got their start by appointment.
Yeah. What does that say?
So that's the two really good members of the council, though, got elected. Let's just say that.
We'll say that. Yeah.
Brian and Nate. So
yes.
Yeah. So appointments are. I tell you what, it's so underhanded. It's so, if I were going to. Here's another thing too. You guys could at least pretend, just pretend that this isn't conceived or contrived. Can you just pretend? I mean, it's kind of like if a bank got robbed. If they went out and robbed a bank, they're doing it on camera, sticking their tongue out at the camera, spending the money at the store next door to the bank. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a cabal of power. It's all about power, not representing you.
Yeah.
Power, and I guarantee you this Sand guy is a buddy of Glasgow, Scotland. How else do you explain this?
Yeah.
And was this agreed to by the rest of the council?
That's not the way it sounds here.
Yeah.
But then again, they were going to go through the process to allow him on. So this is what I don't understand. So there's a group, Concerned Citizens of Lakeland, that they were upset because Mayor Richard Glasgow last week appointed a city resident to fill a vacant seat on the city council, and they say it was an arbitrary appointment. I don't know what that means. I would argue to say he probably had it planned out in advance, and it wasn't arbitrary at all. He knew exactly who he wanted. That's how these things usually work.
Well, apparently
he didn't like stick his finger in the phone book and go, "Hey, there's my next city council member."
No, apparently the council members were other council members were threatening to pull this from the agenda.
Okay.
And one of them said that this Joe Pavement.
What?
Payment.
Johnny Payjack?
Palement. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it.
Okay. Yeah.
Had met with the mayor, and the mayor reneged on the deal that they had agreed to. This guy's out of control.
So they had.
By the way,
yeah.
I discovered I'm friends with this guy on Facebook.
Really?
The mayor of Lakeland.
Wow.
So he may be listening. I'm sure. Well, everybody does. So the invitation's open to the mayor if he wants to explain himself. We'll put it on the blog, and I mean, I would let him.
COMM Solutions mn@gmail.com. Hit us up.
Yeah, I mean, everybody reads it, so I mean,
let us know. Yeah.
So, but lots of and here's the thing too. I mean, why would you? It's like I said before. Why would you do something so blatantly obvious and so something so you're screwing up something so simple? This guy maybe could get appointed anyway. Mm-hmm. If you took applicants and he was the best person, or whatever the council decides to do. I mean, you and I aren't fans of this. Lakeland doesn't have an election until 2020. There's no reason they can't have an election and pick somebody. But if you're not going to do that, you at least have got to. Like you said, we saw this in Big Lake. I mean, you have at least got to give people a chance. You can't just hand pick somebody and just say, "Here, you're going to represent the city now."
Right. Well, and remember, though, I mean, this council may not have been in lockstep on this because remember that Mayor Richard Glasgow was in favor of continuing with the previous arrangement with because he was so smart and so talented at what he did. The former city council mayor that did resign was also employed by the city in 2 separate part-time staff positions. And he was so integral to the city that they couldn't let him go. And not everybody agreed with him. And so this guy may have been somebody that, would have allowed that to continue.
Yeah, very possibly. I mean, if it was handpicked by the mayor, I'm sure that's... I would have to assume that it's somebody that would agree with the mayor's point of view on most things. I don't know why anybody would conclude anything different than that.
Right. So, yeah. So Jim Stanton is the one that left, and he still, as far as I know,
the guy from the Yankees, brother.
I don't think
His
so.
Brother from the Yankees.
No.
Okay.
But from what I understand, he's still serving as the city's public works director and zoning administrator. Both.
But it's part-time. So
yeah.
it's
okay. No, because he's making what? It was like $30 an hour.
Yeah, but we're not paying his health insurance, so therefore it's part-time.
Oh, my word. Did you also see, though, that on Monday night, then council member Tammy Fahey resigned unexpectedly from the council as well. So now they have 2 vacancies.
Great. So we're going to have... another one. We're going to have sand and what? Sand and gravel? We're going to get gravel in there?
Sand and pound. Pound sand. Go pound sand. So, yeah. So it looks like the citizens here want to have a special election, which is the right way to do it.
Well, or at least an open process at minimum.
Right. They
Not appointing, the mayor's buddy.
Right.
This guy went so far as to get notarized to take office.
Yeah.
Kudos to this group. Without them,
that's how we got our start.
Yeah, this probably would have been pushed through.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I love how they both declined to comment. They were, too busy watching, Night Court season 3 to comment on it. I just love that. A way to back up your stance.
Oh. So yeah, interesting goings on in Lakeland. If you're listening to this and you're out in Lakeland, shoot us an email, commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. We'd like a little bit more information on this, especially if you're with concerned citizens of Lakeland. So, yeah.
All right. Now, Jay, can I say one more thing here? Last week we did our show on what came out from the legislature.
Yeah.
And the garbage that was agreed to, peddled, thrown in on at the last minute. We're going to take kind of a big picture approach on something that I just found out came through on the program today. And we've talked about this. I know we've talked about this sporadically on previous episodes. I don't know if we've dedicated an episode to this.
We did, in a way. I think it was, I don't remember the episode number. I can look it up, but I think it was titled Mind the Achievement Gap.
Mind the Achievement Gap. Because the achievement gap, I've become a little more conspiratorial since we did that episode.
You?
Believe it or not.
You?
I spent, half my day watching, moon landing stuff. So,
Right.
I'm known to be out there. But, look, for the record, I look at both sides of everything. I don't advocate conspiracies. We don't do that on this program.
No.
We give you facts. You do what you want with them. But the achievement gap in education. Can I just say straight out that this is something that is never going to be fixed?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And anybody who claims they can do it, or some new program that they slap a different name on, is lying through their teeth. And I think this has become the ruse to which more money is flowing into these public schools. $600 million was allocated by the legislature in this session to, quote, close the achievement gap. Do you know how many times we have initiated money to close the... Where is this money going? I'm going to tell you something. It is not an easy question to answer.
Is it ever?
Well, usually it's not.
No.
But, the amount of initiatives out there. If I heard that there was a foundation that was spending millions of dollars to help homeless people in San Francisco. Now, if homeless people have millions of dollars, why are they homeless?
Well,
Okay, no, it's the same. It's the same thing here. If we're spending millions of dollars to target one group of people or two groups of people or whatever, why is it that the results don't change?
your guess is as good as mine.
So where is this money going? What is it doing? And you know what it's doing? It's hiring staff.
Yeah. Well, any time that there is a referendum and you're paying more tax dollars, because it's for the kids, that's generally where that money ends up going.
Most of it. Yeah, most of it just goes right into benefits
you
and
might get some new chalkboards or or smart boards as they
That's
have
right.
now.
You don't have to go down and clean the erasers like I used to have to do in elementary school.
Right.
So buff them out. I had to do that all the time.
That was the punishment, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
you go.
That was my punishment for throwing glue on somebody else's jeans or something.
Richter, you go clean those.
We'll take those
erasers
down to the custodian's office and buff them out. But let me just talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
Because the idea that we're all going to be the same, We're all going to progress at the same rate. Jay, let me put it to you like this.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that I randomly, we're going to teach 25 fifth graders how to play chess.
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree or disagree that some kids would pick it up faster than others?
I agree.
Would you agree or disagree? Some people were going to like playing chess and some people aren't.
I agree with that as well.
Will you agree or disagree that if two people played each other, one's going to lose and one's going to win unless there's a stalemate, which rarely happens. One of them's going to win, one's going to lose.
I would agree with that.
So how in the world can I get 25 people, okay, to equally move forward as chess players like a symphony in a a Bach, Beethoven, Flamingo, or whatever, Pavarotti orchestra? Am I ever going to be able to do that? I want to see that group of 20. I could clone 25 people, and they would all still. One would win and one would lose.
Yeah. I'll go a step further.
And after that, I'm going to go a step further than you.
Really?
Yes. I got more.
You could
been thinking about this all day.
You could take 25 kids that were really interested in the theater and want to be actors, and you could put them all in the Perpich Center for the Arts over in Golden Valley, and they could all study there. And what are the chances that they are going to all get the same grade and be at the same level of acting as each other?
The chances are 0%.
Yeah.
The chances are -%.
Right. So even with an interest that is similar and desire and motivation, you're still not going to have equal outcomes.
Think of it like this. When I played Little League, okay, and I was like the Barry Bonds of Little League. But I mean,
I'm sure you were.
Yes. Well, my head size wasn't that big yet. but you've got 13 players on a team, let's just say.
Yeah.
Are they all equal?
No.
No, why? They all go to the same practice.
Mm-hmm.
They all hit against the same pitcher.
Right.
Okay? But guess what? Some people are better at it. Some people suck. Some people don't like the sport. Some people are good fielders. They're not good hitters. Some people, nobody in their wildest dreams would expect. Watch the Minnesota Twins. Tell me every player on the team's the same.
Right.
Okay.
Even there, where everybody excels,
Everybody's
really good.
everybody's a professional, and they're still not the same.
No.
So why is it? Why doesn't anybody ask? Why is it when I watch a committee hearing at the state legislature, nobody goes, "Hey, you know what? Show me a class anywhere where every kid is equal." Think back. I think back to when I was in school, and I went to District 281, our local district here. And the demographics were a bit different, but I can tell you that we had what we call the high class, the regular class, and the bonehead class.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can't say that now, but even the teachers called it the bonehead class back then. And I'm going to tell you something.
Yes.
There were plenty of white kids in the bonehead class.
Mm.
And it didn't matter how much money their dad made or they were at risk. Or whatever the phrases we come up with now. And there were minority kids in the high classes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of a few that, again, there were fewer of them when I was going to school. But, I mean, the whole notion that kids weren't learning equal then.
No.
So how did that, Jay, I just don't understand. How did that become? The only thing I can think of is it's the sales pitch for more money. It's, well, you know what? Here's the deal. We got more kids in poverty, which means nothing when it comes to education.
No.
My dad was a truck driver and my mom was a secretary, and I knew how to read and write when I got into kindergarten. Okay,
Yeah.
They didn't have a teaching license, okay? And maybe it was good because they were home a lot. Mm-hmm. So and all I needed was my bike and my baseball glove, and I was happy.
Right.
So, I think that our perception of that and how we associate race and socioeconomics with they're obsessed with it. That this has become the new They've tried do it for the children. They've tried, save the high school. They've tried. I mean, they've exhausted every sales pitch they can give. Mm-hmm. So now it's become all about, you don't support this, you're a racist.
Yeah.
We're down to that now.
Well, that's what it always comes to. When we don't agree with their side, we get labeled as racists. Why? Because we're good, upstanding people that actually care about not being racist, and so that bothers us. But that's what they use every time. It's no surprise that they go there here. But, you look at education, and people from all sorts of economic strata have persevered and made something of themselves. People with nothing have become millionaires and billionaires.
Oh, that's America's.
It is.
But bread and butter right there.
I tell you this, that environment has a lot to do with it. If you have a parent that doesn't want to push education, if you have a parent that it's not cool to learn and be smart, if you have a parent that's beating a kid, or if you have...
An absent parent is always tough.
Yeah,
Not divorced parents. I don't mean that. I mean an absent parent.
And that doesn't make it impossible either.
No, it doesn't. But it's another strike against you. It makes it all that much more hard.
Right.
But still, I think it's so condescending to tell kids whose mom and dads are middle class or lower middle class, they're at risk and they need some special blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you what, if somebody would have offered free and reduced lunch to my mom and dad, they would have considered it food stamps.
Yeah.
That's what they would have thought. There was a stigma attached to doing that.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily right or wrong on the kid, but, there was pride in not being that way.
But now there's free breakfast as well.
Hey, I don't have to cook anymore. Yeah. I'll sleep in. I can binge watch on Netflix tonight. Yeah. There's just a different attitude. Mm-hmm. Today, and it's no wonder that kids who barely can speak English, how do we expect them to read and write at third grade when they were born in another country?
I know.
I mean, come on, that's a joke. They're going to be behind most of their lives. That doesn't mean they can't be a success,
right? As
adults, I mean, we got to stop with that attitude. Not you and I, but I mean, we got to stop with the low expectations. But this idea that, listen to this, Jay. This is from the Minnesota Department of Education. I'd like to know from these school districts out here where this money goes. I want to know where this money goes, because it is not easy to find. Listen to this. These are just some of our key efforts generating in reducing the achievement gap, which it has not done.
No.
Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge Grant. Read Well by Third Grade and Literacy Incentive Aid. More rigorous reading and math standards. Achievement and Integration Aid. World's Best Workforce, which I'll get into in a second, because we really haven't covered that. Because that put some unfunded mandates on school districts. I'll talk about that in a sec. All-day kindergarten for every child. Again, who says all-day kindergarten is the... when did that become a magic cure for something?
Yeah. I don't know.
Kindergarten is, I think it's important that kids transition into school. I think it's important that I think it's hard for a kid to just all of a sudden go to school 8 hours a day, just out of nowhere. I think that I think it's all just, to keep kids in daycare. Early learning scholarships, WIDA, whatever that is, Standards for English Language Learners, Annual American Indian Education Summit. American Indians, a lot of them aren't necessarily poor. High-quality charter replication and expansion grants. All this garbage, and the achievement gap in this time hasn't moved. World's Best Workforce. Now, this was passed, about 6 years ago now? It's been there. I could have sworn it was at the end of Dayton's first term.
Yeah.
But I could be mistaken. created Minnesota Statutes 120B.11. School boards are required to adopt a long-term comprehensive strategic plan to improve and support teaching and learning. The plan must address the following 5 goals.
Okay.
All children are ready for school.
Okay.
I guess we're going to hand out free alarm clocks. What are we going to do there? All third graders can read at grade level. Oh, but if you're in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, I guess it doesn't matter after that. All racial and economic achievement gaps between students are closed. All students are ready for career in college. Oh, God. Something to say on that in a second.
All students, like even kindergartners? Or just when they graduate?
No. Career path and college readiness are the big selling points in every plan program will have those 2 phrases. College readiness and career path. And you need to give a fan to every soccer mom there, because as soon as they hear that, I'm not joking, because one thing I have done is when I have criticized a school program, I've done it on social media, I've done it on TV, I've done it here on the podcast, the reaction from somebody whose kid's in that program is it's like you just bought a new car and you're convinced it's the greatest car on earth.
Yeah.
The salesperson convinced you of that. You know, Eugene Levy from the Vacation just convinced you that after smashing Clark's car that the Queen Family Truckster is the best car you can have, and you're convinced of it. Will react like you're questioning God.
Yeah.
Because their little kid has the best. Their little kid, they were told that this is exclusive, that this is special, that this is rare. You can tell they've gotten that sales pitch.
Yeah.
Okay? So this whole college career has become nothing more than that. All students graduate from high school. Jay, we proved on this show when we talked about 281 and their strategic plan and blah, 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 that hasn't moved anywhere. Locally, statewide, nothing. We're stinking at these goals.
Oh, absolutely.
And where's the money going? Where is it going? I want to know. What is integration aid? What exactly is that being spent on?
Integrating
what?
Not integrating. Aiding in integrating. Integrating has its own fund. Well, let me pick this bone. I mean, we're trying to get our kids college ready.
No,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
but
you. I know where you're going.
I'm sorry, but not every kid belongs in a college. You know, there are kids that just aren't going to get it.
And where did this start? Where did a 4-year college degree become a has to be?
Well, I mean,
I was preached that.
Yeah, I was too. I know that it's been an important thing ever since, you know, our founding, and, you know, Thomas Jefferson founding an important university that, but it's gone deeper than that. And what has happened is that college never used to be as expensive as it was, you know, and you could quality control who got in and all that. You know, it wasn't ever shameful to go to a trade school, to take an apprenticeship, do all that. It's still not, but they make you feel like it. Like, you know, that's the new thing. College should be free, and that's all the, you know, but it shouldn't be as expensive as it is. And I mean, kids should not be in the debt that they're in. It only happens because the government got involved with all of their grants, all of these loans, all of this nonsense that gives the college all this money. And that's why college is so expensive, because the government gives them the money.
Yeah, and here's the great thing. You can get $100,000 to go to college. Good luck getting $10,000 to start your own business.
Right.
Now, how screwed up is that?
Right, exactly. But we're worried about all this stuff, getting our kids college ready, making sure the outcomes are the same, making sure that little Johnny can read with the other third graders. You know, when I was in school, the program for me, I was little excelled when it came to reading. They just kicked me up to the second grade class when I was in first grade. When I was in second grade, they kicked me up to the third grade class. Yeah, you know, that kind of stuff works.
And I got a story to tell on that.
But, you know, to quote just Philip Seymour Hoffman in Almost Famous. He says to this kid that's in high school, and he's like, what are you, the star of your school? He's like, they hate me. You'll meet them all again on their long journey to the middle. But that's how we set these up. Yeah. We don't set kids up to excel. If we did, we would be finding out what they're interested in and then putting them in that direction so they can excel, rather than forcing them into these tracks to go to a college that they may hate being a project manager or hate being a whatever, just because they're supposed to go to college.
Well, and I would take it even a step further than that. I'm going to tell a story that someone shared with me. I'm not going to say who or anything because I don't have permission. But they went to conferences, and their son excelled in math. Mm-hmm. I can't remember how old at the time. Maybe 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. And some of the comments that were made was he's doing great in the class, but he screws around in class. So the mom and dad, who are both friends of mine, said, why aren't you giving him, if he's doing great, why isn't he getting challenged more? Why aren't you putting him in the high? Don't you have the high class, the low class, and the I don't think they said bonehead, but don't you have the ABC or whatever you do it? And they said, no, at this school we don't do that. We found those classes were not racially diverse enough. Oh. So, translation, the hell with who's achieving, the hell with who's behind. We're going to throw you all in a pot, and the kids who are way ahead are going to distract the kids who are behind. The kids who are behind aren't going to get the attention that they need to catch up. Right. And the kids in the middle aren't going to get, they're the lost ones of everything.
But nobody fails.
Right. And we got the chocolate chips in that vanilla shake. That's the most important thing. That all the melting pot. We got everybody together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who's learning, it doesn't matter who's, behind or who's ahead. What matters is we're trying to get them all the same. And if we have to improve numbers by bringing the honkies down and bringing rather than bringing minorities up, they'll call that closing they just won't give you all the info.
Absolutely. And then they'll just change the standards for the tests, and
that happens every day too.
All the time.
I want to go back into this world's best.
That's more.
That was totally off the cuff too. Here's one of the things they focus on. Now, just stick with me on this a second.
Okay.
Here's the first one. Teacher equity. Now, Jay, before you read this, because I know you always peek ahead of me when I ask you questions. Okay. If I said teacher equity, what would come to your mind? If you saw teacher equity, what would you think that meant?
That you need to have a diverse set of teachers from all sorts of multicultural backgrounds.
Kind of.
Yeah.
This is what they say.
Okay.
They say that without saying it.
Okay.
The legislation focuses on ensuring all students have equitable access to excellent teachers.
Oh,
now,
okay.
Let me stop that right there.
So I see this is student-based. This isn't. Okay.
But let me stop you.
Yeah.
Teachers are unionized.
Yes.
Okay? If you have a union situation, how is it possible? And you have the good teachers and the bad teachers have their jobs.
Yeah.
They have their tenure. They have their security. How does everyone have equal access to the best teachers when you can't even define, the public schools can't even define what a great teacher is? Their unions fight them on any evaluation that says anything of the sort. Mm-hmm. So what, right away, this first goal could only happen in a private setting, because the good teachers would keep their jobs, get paid the money. People would want to go get taught by them or go to those schools.
Right.
In a public setting, how do we have equal access, equitable, whatever that, of course, that's undefined. Districts are to ensure that they have a process in place to examine the equitable distribution of teachers and strategies to low-income students, students of color, American Indian students that are not taught at higher rates than other children by inexperienced, ineffective, or out-of-field teachers.
I think I see what they're saying there. So
good, because I need help.
A lot of times in inner city schools, that's where your new teachers start, because the teachers that, not always, you will have teachers that fall in love with being at an inner city school and they stay there their entire career because they love it. You have other people that don't, and they move to the suburbs, or they move to outstate Minnesota, or they move out of state entirely. But what this is saying then is that those teachers that are more experienced, not new teachers who are still trying to figure out what to do, those teachers somehow, these other groups should have access to these teachers that have decided they don't want to be in the inner city and they've moved on.
Okay. But again, here's where the union structure has hurt that. You mentioned new teachers. Okay, if you're an older teacher with your tenure and your experience, you can take that anywhere.
Yep.
New teacher can't.
Right.
So new teacher's going to go into Minneapolis, get the hell out of there after 3 years or 5 years when they have their tenure, and the cycle's just going to repeat itself. The union cycle is what is, again, pretend I was a private school in Minneapolis and we had vouchers.
Yes.
And I could offer whatever amount of money I wanted, benefits I wanted, to the 20 best teachers I could find. They would work there regardless of where it was. They'd do it for the money.
Right.
So, but in a union structure, you can't do that.
That's true.
So how are you going to get them?
Steps and ladders.
So how are you going to get them equitable access? And again, I come back. What is a good teacher and a bad teacher? Point me. Put 10 teachers in a room. Tell me which ones are good and which ones are bad.
Yeah. Well,
you look at, I'm sure the president of the teachers, everybody's just great. We have the world's greatest. Every district talks about they've got the best staff and the best teachers and the best programs and the best blah, blah, blah. But they don't even critically even think that there's something wrong going on in the classroom.
Right.
So with that attitude, how do you implement this? It goes counter to everything you hear from the schools.
Yeah.
So, schools can't even define a good school and a bad school. I define it, voting with your feet.
Right.
That's a good school and a bad school. But, so, again, I'm lost as to where anything we're doing, okay, is ultimately going to change things. You know what you're going to have? Like Jeff Foxworthy said it best. You're going to have stupid people. Okay? You're going to have some people who learn one subject better than another. You're going to have some people who work harder than others.
Yeah.
And the more you dumb down a high school diploma, we went through 281, taking their half a credit, their 3.5. Their French work week. I don't know what that is. So and again, you're right. The focus on a 4-year, the lack of putting people on a different path than that. And let me ask another question. Elementary school kids, they don't need a program for anything. I'm sorry, but when you are trying to learn the basics, when you go into junior high, you damn well better know, math and English and blah, blah, blah. You don't need to be in some at-risk program or after-school movie or whatever. You don't have to be that. Why is it that we think we have to harness a kid at 4 or 5 years old and put them on some path to going to Notre Dame or something. I mean, what?
Well, it's not even 4 or 5. I mean, now, they want to have free child care for all and all that kind of stuff, and they want to be able to get their hands on kids as soon as possible.
Get them in the system as quick. I mean, Education Minnesota, we have said before, wants to control kids from birth. At birth, they want to snatch your kid and put them in some all-day daycare center or whatever till college graduation. They want to control everything to your 22, 23 years old from birth.
Yes.
I don't say it, they do.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but again, I still come back to, if you put 50 white kids in a room, you could not get them going forward equally.
No.
On anything, on any subject, any sport, any activity, any video game playing, texting speed, whatever you want to do, you can't get it achieved. So why do we think that this is solvable?
Well, because
I understand it from a compassionate point of view.
Right.
That you don't want
you don't want anybody to fail.
Right.
You want people to achieve the best that is possible for them.
You certainly do, without a doubt. But I want to know where this $600 million is going. And if there's no results, I want to know what we're going to do about that. Well, and my guess is we reappoint $600 million again.
Right. Well, that's it. I mean, this is all about the money and all about the politics. There's so many hundreds of $1 millions wrapped up in things like this, and they continue to do it over and over and over. And that's why they come up with these schemes, is so they can get money. And, like you say, a lot of it goes to staff, their raises, their adjustments after arbitration, things like that. Also, you look at the politics of it, and getting people elected, getting people moved up through the ranks that agree with them to get them that money. I mean, that's a big part of it as well.
But we've been talking. I mean, I've been hearing achievement gap stuff for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, at what point are we going to conclude? You know what? This ain't going to be solved in a classroom. This is generational. Mm-hmm. This is a family problem as much as anything else, and we got to stop lowering. You know how it's going to get solved is when the government stops being the nanny state.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, how many people rely on the government for health care, food, transportation, any other kind of assistance you could think. And think of those spigots were turned off or turned down. And what do you want to bet we'd all of a sudden have more self-motivated, and some of them wouldn't. Some of them aren't going to achieve no matter how much money you throw at them. But some of them will.
Yeah.
Some of them will, and you never know what can. I mean, America is filled with stories, and you said it very well at the beginning of the show. From people who come from nothing, people who start with nothing, people who had a hard childhood or had a death of a parent or whatever. Dog got run over by a SUV out of control, whatever, and they succeed anyway.
Yeah.
And we're losing that in this nation. We're really losing it. People are accepting mediocrity. They're accepting, I think a lot of constraints on people are self-put on. So, I mean, the only way I see that turning around is to give people more freedom and cut off the spigots of free money. But we're going in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. We look at education as a whole, and you look at what they've tried to do, not just with money, but with curriculum and programs to try and fix this achievement gap. I mean, back in the 90s, you had outcome-based education, trying to get a similar level of outcome from every student based on rubrics and things like that.
Choice is yours.
Right. Choice is yours. Shuffling people around. You had No Child Left Behind. Again, trying to address the achievement gap because we don't want to leave any child behind. We want to raise them on up to the same level as everybody else.
Right, and you go back and we had the Race to the Top. Same concept with a different title.
Right.
It was the same basic idea with a different premise behind it.
And I think that they realized that it can't ever be done. And so that's why Common Core was created, because it screwed things up so badly that nobody knows what's truth and what's not truth anymore. Nobody knows what's fact, what's fiction. And when you're making it all up as you go,
what is being taught is going to be the subject of a future show.
Yeah.
That Jason and I have in the works. But, this gap. And let me ask this: how about the minority kids who are succeeding?
Right. What does that say about them?
And why don't we look at them and say, okay, why are you graduating, and the kid next to you not? Instead of throwing money at something, what did you do? What did we have? What path did you take? And again, in a private setting, that would happen. In a private setting, people would vote with their feet. They would go, okay, you know what? We're going to take our scholarship money and we're going to give it here. And if it doesn't work, we're going to leave. We're going to take that money away. You're not going to get it allocated to you in the next legislative session.
Right.
You can't referendum people for it. Big difference there. That's real accountability.
Right.
So, I mean, and you talked about what's being taught like in these colleges. I mean, the whole purpose of being in school is not to be social engineered or anything like that. It's to get the tools to be a successful adult.
Yes.
And how can the public school one size model fits all possibly address that?
Yeah, it can't.
I mean, you mentioned the trades. The trades aren't taught in K through 12 at all.
No.
If you learn them in the Cub Scouts or from your parents or your uncle or your grandpa or whoever. They were there when I was there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're not there whatsoever. And if you look at the job shortages, can you not see a translation between the job shortages and what's not being taught?
Completely.
So, again, there's your answer. And how is a kid going to have a career path when a kid never gets exposed?
Right.
Maybe the kid who's not good in English could still be good at a trade.
And I'll tell you this, plumbers and mechanics get paid pretty dang well.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Because there's a shortage.
Yeah.
There's a shortage, your wage power goes up. Carpenters, mechanics. There's tons of shortages. But again, I mean, they're not, and you think about it, you're not going to school for 4 years and have $100,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Some of them offer an apprenticeship, that you get paid to work and learn. I mean, it could be a good gig for people. But this achievement gap stuff, I tell you what, it's almost up there with sustainable. When I hear achievement gap, it's almost there. But I would challenge, I have a challenge for everybody out there. I want you to go to your school district and have them tell you where they are spending this money that they're getting to fight this achievement gap. And as we proved with District 281, they've made zero progress. I mean, it's not possible to make less progress than they have.
Right.
But again, I challenge anybody. Put 50 white kids in a room and tell me they're going to advance equally. It's never going to happen.
No.
But this Minnesota Department of Education, boy, they must have a whole division that comes out with new ways to phrase things. And when I look at all these initiatives, I'm going, it's like if all the money spent on the poor were actually given to the poor would be wealthy.
Yeah.
So, challenge this achievement gap stuff It is repeated. Again, it's a sales pitch. It is repeated over and over by every teacher, everybody on the school board, everybody in administration. The parents regurgitate it because that's what they're hearing. Mm-hmm. And it's unattainable. It is not attainable to get everybody to learn at the same rate. You can't even try it.
No.
And I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy. I mean, it's a conspiracy to get more money.
Yeah. I think that's, that, like I said before, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to politics and money.
Yeah, well, we promised the unions a 3% raise, and we didn't get it, so we're going to have a referendum to close the achievement gap.
Right.
And when we don't do it, well, we need more money to do it again. We're going to come up with a new plan, a new strategic plan. And it's funny how all these strategic plans are very similar. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing how they're use the same language and the same goals and the same sort of problem everywhere. So, I mean, this achievement gap it's never going to get solved.
No,
it's never going
to get solved.
I mean, you being a teacher yourself.
Yes.
I know you've told some stories about it, but you've seen firsthand how this is. I mean, it's just some kids just, and I hate to say this too, some kids just don't belong in school. Can I say that?
Yeah.
They're there and they're disruptive. Mm-hmm. And like I've said before, let them go work at the car wash. Let them go be the fry cook at Five Guys. And what do you want to bet at some point they figure it out?
Yeah.
And their lives aren't over.
Right.
Okay? Somebody can go back and get a GED, go learn a trade, you can still be successful.
Heck, you can pour 50 hours of study into something on YouTube and become good enough at it to start making some money, and you continue your learning, and you can become self-made still in this country. Yeah.
The most barriers are, like I said, are self-put up or put up by the government. Mm-hmm. One of the two. So, I mean, I don't know, Jay. I mean, I'm going to make a prediction now, and I'm not going to do anything to make it happen, and I'm 99.99% certain I'm going to be right on this.
Okay.
That in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years or 8 years, when we're doing another state budget, we are going to have hearings trying to figure out why we have a gap between this and this. If there isn't a gap, they'll invent a new one. If it's not race, it'll be income, or it'll be who owns a home, or who's in Section 8, or who has no pets or something. I don't know. They'll come up with something to divide everybody, and we will make no progress, solve nothing, do nothing. But all these schools will get more money.
Yeah.
They'll all be rewarded for trying.
Well, that's really what's important.
They'll all get a participation trophy, and that participation trophy is more of my paycheck.
Yes. That's true.
But I challenge anybody out there. Find me any scenario at your work, at a school, at your everybody doesn't get drunk at the same rate. I mean, come on. I mean, it's totally unattainable. And it's about equal opportunity, not equal outcome. And education, a great education, is right in front of your face. Mm-hmm. We offer it. Nobody walks up to you and says, "Here you go. Here's an education."
Right.
An education is earned.
Yep.
And it's not an entitlement. And so, how the hell do we change that attitude?
I don't know.
Make
how
me
we do
dictator, and I'll change the attitude.
Really, you're going to change an attitude? But
yes, because I'll implement the BST, and that'll fix everything else.
Boy.
And then, short of making me dictator, I don't know. I don't know what we could possibly do.
Yeah, well,
you want to help me stage a coup?
I don't know.
I'm up for it. Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I mean, you could, the Patriots were at Lexington, right? Wasn't that a coup, kind of?
I guess so, yeah.
So, I mean, just think.
This country began, okay, over a tax on stamps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you think about today, and you think about then.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
I know, a tax on stamps, and now it's like, hey, we're not paying enough taxes.
Not paying enough. We're paying 1 million of them. I mean,
you and I know that, but these people that we put in office don't seem to
I
know
just
that.
wonder. I just wonder a kid studying the American Revolution today.
Yeah.
How do they react to a country started a war over a stamp act? I mean, that was not the only thing,
right?
But, I mean, think about that for a minute.
Well, I mean, first you'd have to find kids that are studying the revolution today.
Yeah. That may be the most illiterate part of American history. Might be our own revolution.
Yeah.
Find me a college graduate who's read the Federalist Papers. Yeah, you don't count.
Oh, okay.
I've read them, and I'm not.
People can't see me raising my hand
he
across
raises
from me.
his
I should
hand.
probably vocalize that.
Yeah, but you don't count.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It's just scary how little is known about our founding. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and that's why we're raising a generation of socialists.
it's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Part of the reason is that I don't quote G. Gordon Liddy often.
Well,
But-
why wouldn't you?
Well, but one of the greatest lines I ever heard in my life is, "If I don't know freedom, I can't lose it."
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't know what it's like to be free, I can't lose my freedom.
Right.
So, I mean, you think about it, and I know I'm babbling here, but there are no Americans alive today working who have never worked when there was no income tax. There's no Americans alive today working and raising families that have not elected senators the way we elect them. There's no Americans alive today that were, 40 years old during the Great Depression. There's no, you know what I mean? Even something like the Cold War, which I grew up in, the concept, I mean, if you're 20 years old,
Yeah.
you have no concept of any of that. Even 9/11 is something that happened when you were a kid. You
Yeah.
don't even remember it. I mean, your livelihood has never been. Your whole life has been your phone and your Katy Perry record and your binge watching Stranger Things. I mean, that's been your whole life.
Right.
I mean, not that it's their fault necessarily, but how does that generation create that lust for freedom?
I think that it has to come through experience, unfortunately, and sometimes that experience comes through a dictator or a socialist system that really clamps down your freedom, and henceforth what we see in Venezuela today, because they just handed over their guns, and that, allowed the government to do what it did.
Yeah, use the guns against them.
Right. The other way is to experience such incredible success at something that you put your shoulder to the wheel and you make happen, that all of a sudden the light goes on and it's like, hey, I did this. I made this happen. So all this other stuff that they're telling me, I might not believe that.
Well, to quote Saul Alinsky,
Oh, my favorite.
there are 8 levels of control to create a socialist state.
Yes.
Government control of health care, an increase in poverty,
Yeah.
an increase in debt, gun control, welfare, controlling education, removing God, and class warfare.
And they're
And let me
working on
tell you
them all.
something, we're all there now.
Yeah.
Half the country is there now.
Yep.
I mean, that would have never flown. When I was growing up, that would have never flown.
No.
No way would any of that flown. I mean, I nobody would have removed God from anything in the 1980s.
No.
Left or right.
Yep.
So
No, that's true.
now God is you're free to make fun of anybody who believes in that.
Right.
So, anyhow, boy, that was a long-winded. I really went off topic there.
That's okay. We do that here. It's okay. It's cheery, though, isn't it? Just that cheery topic.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, so what are your school districts like out there? And, you know, what are you experiencing? Are you noticing that everybody's getting an equal outcome? Or is everybody graduating with a 4.0? Is everybody valedictorian? Probably not, you know, and some of that, as we've talked about today, is because the state has a problem. Part of that is because your local school boards have a problem, or they're capitalizing on what the state has told them or allowed them to do. So what do you do about it? Well, you give us an email. It's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. We're willing to come out and talk to your group. We're willing to tell you how to put together an effort to recruit, an effort to strategize how to take your area back, your school district, your city, your county. And you know, we've got some experience in these things, and so we have something we can bring to the table, and we would love to be able to speak with you about it. Get a hold of us, or if you see something screwy going on in your community, let us know. Also, you know, the more that you can do to spread the word, we put this stuff out there for you for free. So share it, comment on it, like it, rate it, whatever. And that's going to help get the word out. That doesn't just stroke our egos over here at Community Solutions Minnesota.
But it does.
Yeah, it feels good. But, you know, what feels even better is that when we hear that we get like-minded people elected to offices, and somebody that was not doing a good job is sitting on the sidelines and upset about it. That makes us feel even better. And I know it will make you feel better, because you know the people that will be governing you are more in line with what you believe. So there you go. We're going to go back, and we're going to go to our star chamber and figure out what we're going to talk about a week from now. So don't you go anywhere. You tune in, and we promise to have something for you that is going to be helpful and entertaining, because we love you, Minnesota. Now it's your turn to get to work.